across social media, TV3 Ghana. And then also, always make sure you add the hashtag TV3Newday. As you do that, let me just introduce our guests for this morning. I have Kwame Jantua. Kwame Jantua is the Political Affairs Director of the CPP. He's also a legal practitioner, energy consultant, and thank you for joining us.
Political Affairs Chairman of the CPP.
Okay, let me write it because this thing I keep forgetting. Political Affairs Chairman
of the Convention People's Party.
Kwame Nkrumah's Convention People's Party.
God.
And then we have right here a Director of Communication for the National Disaster Management Organization, also speaks for the Nana Addo government. Thank you for speaking to us and coming through the studio. George, you see is his name. How are you, George?
I'm good. It's always a pleasure to be on your set.
I love it. Your English is so nice. And then also I have Malik Basentali. How are you?
I'm good.
Deputy Communications Officer.
Yes.
Elected. How many are you as deputies? Two.
Yes.
Who is the other?
Akugan.
Akugan. Okay. Godwin Akugan. Right. There's a lingering issue that is getting traction. Has been gaining traction over the last 12 hours, and it's a revelation by the current Deputy Minister of Energy, Andrew Japamesa, to a radio station in his constituency, as well as speaking to a number of media stations. And it is Andrew Japamesa, the Deputy Energy Minister, confirming that the initial consignment of some 40,000 tons of oil that were brought into the country under the gold for oil policy was purchased with cash instead of gold. Okay. Now, his disclosure comes after several calls by the industry experts, such as the Institute of Energy Security, COPEC, for government to disclose the quantity of gold in exchange for the 40,000 metric tons of fuel, as they raise questions over the viability of the deal. There have also been questions about whether this will need some approval in Parliament as well, since it's cross-national transaction, but we'll see how this discussion goes. And I have George Aisi. George Aisi, what are you getting on the corridors of power in relation to this? I'm told the consignment is already or was brought in last week.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning to you. Good morning to my co-panelists. And good morning to our viewers. Permit me to commiserate with a friend in Tiapia who's having the 1 week of the mother's passing at Ashale Butchwe today, Nanayao. And then tomorrow, wishing a friend, the Eastern Regional Director of National Service, a blissful marriage as he walks down the aisle tomorrow with his sweetheart at Koforidia. We hope to be there to help him. We also had something, that one is in your course. Yes, it's unfortunate. We commiserate with the family. Yeah, the government mooted the idea of gold for oil, and you know, because the objective of that program, as we rolled out, was to reduce the pressure on the forex, and so that, you know, the fluctuating exchange rate will be stabilized. And because, Roland, we are all aware of the quantity of refined products that are brought in every month. We are looking at about $400 million worth of oil products brought in. And according to BOST, we are looking at monthly consumption of about 350,000 barrels of oil or refined products per month in Ghana.
Sorry, not barrels, metric tons.
Metric tons.
Sorry, metric tons. Sorry, thank you very much. Metric tons, because a ton is about 7.46 barrels. So metric tons of oil, 140 petroleum, and then 210,000 diesel. So that is the volume of consumption we have in Ghana. And so looking at that, the government decided once we all need to get dollars, then we go to the international market to purchase. We are competing with importers and other users of the forex for importations. And so why don't we reduce the pressure from the oil marketing company, BDC side, in getting dollars to import? So government brought these gold for oil idea. Roland, the primary objective, besides reducing the pressure on the dollar, is also to target about 50% of the market in the short to medium term, whilst in the long while we get to the 100% level where government does all its fuel importations with the strictly barter concept. And so last week or so, we had about 41,000 barrels coming in under the, we had all said it was the good for oil, this thing. Yes, it is. You have just said that it's money, cash was paid for it. Yes. The framers of the concept made it a two-pronged concept.
I didn't say the Deputy Minister of
Yes,
Energy.
yeah, no, because in your intro...
Oh, you mean I cited it?
You cited
okay.
it, thank you very much. Yeah, so we made it a two-pronged approach. One approach, the first approach is the pure, strictly barter concept, where we take gold and then we value the gold and then we exchange it with a quantity of oil that we would need, and then that goes. The second approach is, because if you're thinking, you need to think ahead and think through it properly. What if you got to the market and the commodity trader who you are engaging doesn't, need gold? What happens? Okay, so there ought to be another angle where you get somebody who needs the gold, can change it into money, and then you get what you want. So that is what they thought through about that. And when we got there, when you get somebody, one, if you're fortunate to get a country that deals with commodity trading that has gold and oil wing, okay, then you're good to go. Strictly barter. They understand the nuances of the operations. But if you don't get that, if you had the Honorable Deputy Minister saying, and then John Jinapor also saying there was a third party involved and all that. So that is what accounted for getting, somebody in between to get you the cash to take what you want. You get it. So it is true. The first stream, we got 41,000, and that is the process that was used. So cash was involved because
41,000 MT.
Metric tons,
okay.
yes, metric tons. And Roland, I heard some saying, in spite of that, we are not feeling the impact on the pricing.
Which naysayers?
No, Ghanaians. It's no, rightly so, because we had put it out there that was going to help reduce the pricing mechanism, right? Because one, we are going to take out the forex components of the price buildup. You get it? So that is one aspect. And then two, it's going to take away a lot of the middlemen in the, oil trading market. You get it? So once you are dealing with a supplier directly, then some of these middlemen will be taken out. And that is it. Now, 41,000 barrels is about 12% of 11.7. So
11%.
11.7%, please. So
11%. It's not 11.7.
So 12%, permit me, you can have your computation.
No, you're
please.
trying to appreciate something that isn't there. I'm sorry.
Please,
don't worry, we'll do the maths.
Please
we'll
note
do
it down.
maths.
When it
Yes,
comes to you,
thank
you can correct him.
Yes, so in mathematics, 11.7.
He's getting this directly from
It's 12%. So
from
please, you do your computation.
From the
and let me-
communication
Thank you very much. Thank you. So about 12% of the monthly requirement. So we're looking at 6 to 8 days, okay, that has come in. It's a good beginning, but going forward, as we hit the 50% target, okay? Because as we speak, Roland, the BDCs and the oil market, some are still doing the importation. They will need the dollars to go, okay? So those ones are also in the fray, in the mix. And then another angle that we're looking at, whether Parliament, it should go to Parliament or not, is an interesting engagement, because as we speak, we are buying the gold from the Ghanaian market. PMMC is doing the buying. And then we are saying, okay, and we are using CDs to buy it. And then we use the gold to have that barter engagement when the whole thing come full stream. Okay. Then, the engagement
let me ask
could
you
go
a
on
question.
so that
in the industry,
we get clarity
in the industry.
space.
If you look
Yes.
at what we have by way of equity, whatever companies, it shouldn't be more than 5-6% by way of our own holdings in terms of the mainstream companies, that etc. The Bank of Ghana says it has in votes in excess of 26,000, and then also I know that the gold that is exploited or mined is meant for the international market.
Yeah, no, there are laws that says about between 20 to 30% should be traded on the Ghanaian markets. And so government is using that law, you know, to enforce that law to say, and then two, community mining and 100% should be sold to the Ghanaian markets. And so that is community mining and the small business. But the big companies and co, 20, now is 20%, okay. But the law says about 30%.
I know what you're referring. In
Thank
that
you.
law, it doesn't say that you should trade in cedis or dollars. There's no specification. That's
oh
what
no, but when you're trading in Ghana, it's cedis. I get you.
So where did you get the information that the purchases are made in Ghana cedis?
Which the
gold purchases made locally
in Ghana
are made in Ghana cedis.
Oh no, that's
I'm
what
not talking about
the
small scale mining sites,
yeah.
Because those ones I know that
and that 20%
the purchases are made in Ghana cedis.
Yes, and that 20% clause. In fact, the minister for mines, lands and natural resources, the Honorable Abu Jinapo, had made this statement publicly that about 20% we are going to enforce the law. 20% of all the produce should be sold directly to the Ghana government through the PMMC. Okay, and two, let's assure you, this deal is not going to touch gold reserves at the Bank of Ghana. It's not going to touch that. Okay. So we are having a direct engagement with PMMC on this one.
Is it my assumption then, or maybe somebody else's assumption then, that if the minister is now confirming that we use cash to go and purchase oil and not gold to go and purchase oil, the cash was in Ghana cedis?
No. Well, I said in the two prongs.
What type of cash was used?
Good. In the two prongs, what it means is that if I'm going to have the butter with him, and then his commodity trading is directly in gold, he's not involved in oil, then what it means is that you need to get somebody who will take the gold for oil. Okay, if you don't have that one, we have that arrangement, commodity traders that are dealing with both oil and gold. But the one we got is the one dealing with, gold and not oil. So you need to get somebody. That's why we said there was a third party. That third party would then till the gold to get you the oil that you need.
The third party is located in Ghana.
Oh, I don't have that detail as to whether the third party
because
is located.
Because the deputy minister is now confirming cash was used. So I'm asking what type of cash? Ghana cedi, US?
Oh, no, definitely. No, international trading definitely is going to be dollars. It's going to be there. And I want to believe it wasn't dollars that we, when we got there. When I give
We're not talking about what you believe. We're talking about the information you have from the corridors of government and communicating to the
Ghanaian people.
The Ghanaian people. And I'm asking the questions.
Oh, yes.
Okay. Because I know that when Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia made the announcement, the intention was that the trade, forget about even the legalities and what the current structures of how the purchases are made. And we are now sidestepping all that to see how we can do that. So my understanding was that we're using direct gold to go for oil.
Yes.
Now we have an intermediary, right?
Good.
So there's a monetary purchase.
Good.
And that monetary purchase also means that there's an exchange of money for gold, for oil, right?
Good.
Right?
Good.
Okay. So I'm saying that money, what money is it? Is it USD? Because you are making an argument that we want to reduce the forex involvement.
Yes,
so that money that was used for the purchase, what was it?
No, my understanding is that once you go there, the commodity trading, when the trader doesn't deal with both gold and oil, okay, then you need to get the one that deals with, what you want. Okay, you have gold. So if Roland can take the gold and get you the oil, okay, which means Roland may sell the gold and get you the oil. So that may be the first possibility, because once it was under the gold for oil exchange. I don't want to, that's why I'm sorry for using the word believe, because I need further information on that. We carried dollars from the BOG
but we gave you this
to go
that we'll be talking about this.
No,
BOG. But we gave this
I spoke to people in the office of the president, office of the vice president.
And they gave you information based on their belief.
No belief. I gave you the information on quantums and all that. You get it. But as to, and once I'm explaining the concept, which concept is
now we know about the concept.
Commodity and that, and then a second one is the cash approach. Which cash approach was what was used?
Okay. Malik, what meaning do you make of this? Because I think here I am, my understanding from that initial announcement by the Vice President, who leads government's economic management team, was to make sure that we do some sort of a battle arrangement, yes. Even though there were concerns that within the strict current arrangement we have internationally was not possible. Already we're sidestepping a certain transactional approach or norm that we have in our country. What meaning do you make of what he's saying?
Mr. Roland, listening from all angles of debates pertaining to this particular gold for oil deal, one can arrive at the conclusion that the first most confused system now in the country are the traffic lights system. The second is the MPP government, because they have not been able to arrive at one single, conformed or approved roadmap towards explaining this gold for oil matter. There have been several questions out there. In fact, when this particular matter was first announced, the former President Mahama and presumptive flag bearer of the NDC stated on record that this particular policy needed parliamentary approval because, of course, it was an international financial transaction in conformity with Article 1815 of our 1992 Constitution. The second question a lot of people asked was how the PMMC was going to raise money to purchase over 160,000 ounces of gold. Because you see, what the PMMC does is not to use money. They don't have any money seated there in purchasing gold. They only serve as an intermediary. So people bring their gold to them, they go and trade, and they come to give you whatever amount you sold it to them. And so, if the Vice President will quote that the PMMC was supposed to buy all these gold from these local, miners, and then the government will use it in exchange of oil at the international markets, then it appeared surprising to a lot of people where the PMMC was going to get money to buy these huge sums of ounces of gold. The second question a lot of people asked was whether this was going to be a direct barter or in some instances cash was going to be used. And I listened to AEC state that this particular phase of 41,000 metric tons of oil that came into the country was procured with cash. Roland, how has oil been procured in this country? Has it not always been by cash? So how has a cash for oil policy suddenly become a phase 2 of a gold for oil policy? And they stated that the entire package had to do with one portion of gold being used in exchange of oil, and the second portion had to do with money being used in exchange for oil. How has oil always been procured? We've always used dollars to procure oil, petroleum products into this country. And so since when did that finally become a phase 2? When it had already been an existing policy. To quote the Vice President, he said, with this idea, we said, let us do something that textbooks do not teach us. Let us do something that is out of the box, and that is why we said gold for oil. We quickly looked at this and negotiated with the suppliers of oil who were excited and happy to receive gold.
He did say that.
Thankfully, yesterday, the first delivery of that oil arrived. It simply meant that we had exchanged gold for the 41 metric tons of oil that came into the country.
Meaning, you wanted some prior information about or clarity.
He wasn't briefed. He came as usual to
How can you say the Vice President wasn't briefed?
You know, but if you say one thing and less than 24 hours, your deputy, energy minister says another thing, then it means that your credibility, the little credibility you had, has been tattered and thrown to the dogs. The third question a lot of people asked in this particular matter was how many ounces of gold was used in exchange of these 41 metric tons. Because we know that today, if you are going to sell a gram of gold, let me even use a gram so that a lot of people understand, goes for $50. A barrel of crude in the international markets go for about $80 to $85. 81 now, absolutely. It would mean that you would need close to 2 grams of gold, relatively, in exchange of 1 barrel. These close to 2 grams of gold will be valued in dollar terms because gold is not a currency. And so it is same as taking your gold, going to sell it at, let's say, $100 per 2 grams, and then taking $81 to buy these petroleum products. It is same. And so people felt that, look, what you are going to do is just the same as you've been doing, as you've been selling our natural resources to supplement the cost of selling your crude internationally.
But there
and
was
then
an
buying petroleum
understanding,
products.
Malik. And the understanding was that in order to avoid, and I believe that that's the understanding I also got. And a week or two ago, we were here to do this discussion. Mr. Jantwa, you were here as well with COPEC. The understanding I got was that from the policy announcement, in order to eliminate the usage of forex and so create less of a demand of the dollar, there will be either insignificant or no use of a currency at all, and so gold will be used, and there has to be that vehicle or the entity out there or the intermediary out there, that will accept gold for the oil. Now we're being told that cash was used. So I even asked him what type of cash was it, CD cash
or dollar cash, or euro cash?
Because if it's CD cash or
no, he
dollar,
admitted that it was in dollars, of course. This is an international.
Did you admit in dollars?
Yes, he admitted.
But it defeats the essence of the policy.
It is fundamentally flawed. And I say so because the PMMC, as stated by the government, is going to be in charge of procuring gold products from our mining communities. Let me use Akonta mines as an example. PMMC goes to procure gold from them in cities, as they have stated. Akonta mines is not a full entity of the government of Ghana. And so ultimately, they would have international investors. They will then go to buy gold, okay, before taking those monies, having capital flights out of this country.
Yeah.
And so how does it ease the pressure on the dollar? Because you go to buy in cedis, this company will have to buy dollars to pay its foreign investors. And so how does this reduce pressure? Again, let me clear the impression that, 41,000 metric tons of oil was brought into this country. It was diesel. And the diesel quantity that was brought only supplements 25% of our diesel requirements. It was diesel, purely diesel. And so I was surprised that the vice president could boldly stand. As usual, they were fact checkers.
To be sincere, diesel is oil. It's fuel.
No, but they are stating emphatically what was brought in. And I was surprised that the vice president could boldly say that the 41 metric tons that was brought in was going to be ease the pressure on the dollar. Are you aware that this week alone, the dollar has depreciated by close to 10%? Are you aware that this week alone, petrol has increased by 8%? Are you aware that this week alone, diesel has risen by 10%? And so that 41 metric tons had no impact on whatever was done in this country. But you see, interestingly, our worry is with regards to the fact that this is opaque. This has no policy document. Nobody seems to understand whatever is happening. And they seem to throw pieces of whatever engagement they are having, on a daily basis. And so you have different folds. But you see, for a vice president like Dr. Bawumia, who already has a lot of credibility challenges, and in fact is at a point of wanting to rise to the highest office of being vice president, to allow himself to be misled in this manner, to mount a podium. He's rising. He wants to be president, to be flag bearer.
Yes, but you mentioned vice president.
He's rising to be flag bearer. Will allow himself to be misled by somebody into standing on a podium and stating categorically clear.
Because he announced the policy himself.
He announced that the 41 tons.
Is there any precedent that the vice president makes policy announcement? He's not the one in charge. Don't say that.
In this particular matter, he has not been in charge because he didn't even know that the 41 metric tons that came in was paid through by cash. It was the deputy minister who clarified that angle. And that is my worry in this. Because your little credibility should be protected, at least, if not for anything, for morality's sake. And you see, to land on this, I believe strongly that the vice president's announcement was only on a speculative sphere. And it's a lazy man's approach for a vice president to stand. And then, you know what he sought to do? He sought to put some tensions in investors to believe that, look, the dollar is going to drop. So people should throw in their dollars. So that after throwing in your dollars, when you realize the dollar rate is coming down, then he comes out to say,
again, that's an assumption. You get a
point I'm making. You get a point I'm making. It was very speculative, and it's a lazy man's approach.
Saying there was an agenda to it.
The demand and supply forces is a lazy man's approach in managing capital flights, and I feel that nobody should, as head of economic management team, should be engaged in such low-level sphere of speculative analysis.
I have a friend, Jerry Amedro, in the Norton constituency, who seems to be asking the question that, based on what you know from the industry, is it that there was a lack of clarity on the announcement that was made by the vice president on the gold for oil policy? And then if you look at what has now been brought in, the 41,000 MT of oil, and then the transaction processes thereof, does that make it different from the initial announcement, or your understanding from that initial announcement, Mr. Jantwa?
Good morning. You you remind me of my court days in terms of how you're questioning. I believe there was no clarity in terms of the communication with regards to this policy.
Did you guys wanted questions?
It wasn't too clear how this thing was.
Did you guys ask questions?
Yeah, I'm going to it. I've sent you a structure of the transaction. BOG, PMMC.
Is it sacrosanct? Can we send it and put it on air?
I can put it on air.
Do you have it? Please send it to me as well.
What's that?
Bank of
You have my number.
Bank of Ghana, PMMC. They purchase the gold. Bank of Ghana supplies the money.
In some commercial banks, not in all instances.
Then we were told that
sent
it
you a
was
message.
a barter. But when you look at the diagram, it goes to a gold trader. What does the gold trader do? The gold trader then sells the gold and gets money from it. It gets USD from it. That USD is then put in an offshore escrow account. Now, you say you want to do gold for oil because of the dollar. They are selling the gold. Isn't it the same dollar? Is it a different currency? So if that is the case, why don't we sell gold to shore up our dollar reserves? Why don't we? Because whatever the case is, today, somebody who is a refinery knows nothing about gold. They won't take gold, they will take money. And the money they know is what? The dollar. If we were told that, look, guys, we think a barter system is something that we want to use. However, it could happen that we would have to buy. We don't have the foreign exchange. We have been blocked from the international markets. But we have a commodity called gold that demands quite a high price. So we would use X percent of our gold to sell to get dollars. And then those dollars we would use to do several things, not only oil for gold. Because remember, the BDCs are still bringing in refined petroleum products.
Actually, they are enjoined.
Yes, they are bringing in refined petroleum products. So so far as I can see, there shouldn't have been duplication in that process, where the BDCs are bringing it in, and government too wants to get in. Now, this is the same government who does not believe in government getting involved in business. They don't. Everything is private sector, private sector, private sector, private sector. So if that is the case, why don't you use the money to support the BDCs? One. Two, why don't you use the money if gold sells and we can make money out of it? Why don't you use the gold, either sell or use as collateral by syndicating banks to get instruments to use to raise the 500 million that is required to get Tor back on its feet? Because Tor is more long-term than what we're doing. Tor is more sustainable than what we're doing. Then you ask the question, when you look at the diagram, it then goes to escrow account, then the oil is bought from an oil trader. And remember, remember, these traders, they charge. We don't know how much the gold trader is charging. We don't know how much the oil trader is charging. And if you look here, we are not going direct to the refinery. We are going through traders, and the traders will charge. It then comes to BOST. So BOST now handles it. But in BOST handling it, they are competing with the BDCs, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
And maybe the plan is to bring the BDC price down so that they can control the, what do you call it, the price at the pumps. But then if you're doing that, are you not putting private BDCs into a challenge?
And you're explaining this.
Because, yes, because what have they done? The private BDC has gone to the banks for loans. And based on how much they're getting it, they'll be able to pay their loan. But if you're competing with them, and they will now have to drop their prices, are you existing the business? Are you making the business defunct?
Well, but there's an overarching policy intention for this, right? And it's all to make sure that we beat down or reduce the incessant demand for USD.
For me, the best way we can beat this price down is to refine our own. That's the best way.
Sure. But that's also part of the objective.
Is it?
It is.
How is it part of the objective?
It is part of the objective to strengthen TOR in the long term.
When?
Well, that's a question you have to ask Mr. Isi.
Listen, did they have foresight?
I don't understand.
Why did we get here?
Okay.
Why did we get here?
After 7 years.
After 7 years. The first thing they should have done when they came into power, TOR, and they should have seen it coming.
But TOR was on the way of being...
it was revamped, not on the way. It was revamped in 2016.
I'll tell you.
No,
because I know.
Oil was
Please.
Oil was actually transported from Jubilee Fields to the Tema Oil Refinery. And in fact, the refinery had started processing. Even in 2015.
Because I know Mr. Uwadaku was doing some good work at the time.
Wait.
TOR was revamped and started producing.
Let's not swamp the thing into some political debate. I think it was widely reported by the beginning of
it started
Listen, 1 million.
So where did your people get the oil to?
But okay,
to steal?
if it was west, then now it's west.
1 million barrels was taken from GMPC. GMP's allocation in the Jubilee field.
Yeah.
To TOR.
Yeah.
To refine.
Yes.
2016.
Yes.
It worked.
But that was a good thing.
Fine.
But that's a good thing. Mr. Isi and Malik, please stop this debate.
If for nothing,
Stop this debate. Please note it down.
If for nothing at all, the tests to see whether TOR could refine showed that they could refine.
And if we had continued from 2017, it would have been better.
It would have been a done deal.
Now listen, where TOR is concerned, the problem has got to do more with management. Because for implements and equipment, 10 to a dozen, you can bring it in and refit TOR. It's the management and the politics of TOR. That's where the problem is. And politicians are not ready to touch it with a barge pole because they are in there also making money in there. And that is the challenge we have. Look, which vehicle are we using for this gold to oil thing? Which vehicle?
You tell me. You're in the industry.
There seems to be, in what we hear, there seems to be a vehicle that we don't know of, Ghanaian vehicle that we don't know
of. An SPV?
Yes, that is controlling this thing, that has politicians behind it. Would you hear? You won't hear. I'm telling you. And you see, this is where sometimes I fault.
You're saying Mr. Isi will not know because he's a small fish.
Well, no, he might know, but he wouldn't want to. He wouldn't want to say. And this is where sometimes I fault the media, because with this, the media should be able to delve deep into it and see exactly what is going on. Because government really hasn't come out to tell us how much gold are we using. How much gold, as he rightly said, is doing 41,000 metric tons. 41,000 metric tons is one vessel. We do it all the time. When I had the BDC lines, we used to bring it in. 41 is just one vessel.
It's nothing.
It's nothing. Absolutely zilch.
It
won't do
a drop in the
nothing.
ocean.
Yes, a drop in the ocean. But the gold they are using is not a drop in the ocean. Again,
vulnerable gold.
Again, government is now also controlling the small-scale market of gold. And what does it then do? It now can turn into the cocoa board type thing, where cocoa is only sold by cocoa board. Government now will be the main seller of gold.
But that's not bad. The cocoa board, cocoa board thing, if the money was used well, it was not a bad
the
idea.
cocoa board thing is fantastic. And one fantastic thing about it is that you get to know...
Because you remember, if there's
you
a
get to know-
syndicated loan for cocoa board, the dollar sees a sharp decline.
Well, the good thing about it is that you get to know the quantum of metric tons that we are
The
taking.
production.
But where refined petroleum products are concerned, you've deregularized it, haven't you?
Yes, you have.
It's
So I think that the explanation was that gradually all you need is some amendment to the regulations that we have, right? Now,
Protective.
Mr. Isi,
Yeah.
there seem to be key questions that are being asked.
yeah.
You are using the word belief.
somebody
Believe.
somebody has just sent
In
somebody
the
somebody
scheme
has
of
just
affairs,
sent what do you call it to me with regards to the refining. 2017 to 2020, they were able to get both BP and Vitol to enter into a refining agreement with Tor.
It didn't-
And so,
If it wasn't working-
if it wasn't working, they
how
wouldn't be
did
able
they
to
get
do
into
it.
this?
Yeah.
You appointed an
Why-
enemy
why-
for
why-
Tor.
why-
We've
why
resigned.
has it
As a
stopped?
result of corruption.
Why has it stopped?
Roland,
Why is it at this
So
at
So you're
this,
questioning the
at
commitment.
this critical point
Yeah.
Who
where
is
we
questioning the
stand?
commitment? But beyond that, Mr. Beyond that,
No,
Mr.
before
Beyond,
I answer-
Mr.
And
yeah,
see,
you answer.
but
You-
I didn't finish.
Oh, I
didn't,
thought you had
no, I
finished.
didn't finish.
You haven't landed. Please land
I
there.
didn't finish. I
Mr.
don't
Jantua, land.
I don't like the word land. Let me make my point.
Okay, Mr. Jantua, please make your point.
There is a possibility of corruption also in this particular
You
issue.
mean transactional corruption?
Yes.
how?
There's a possibility.
Because there are shadow companies
There
behind.
is a possibility of a
that's
Japa
what-
back door
That's right.
in this particular thing.
Who is
because,
managing the third party
Because government
influence?
is not being transparent with us. They are not telling us exactly the things that they are using, the gold that they are using, how much they are paying. They aren't telling us all that kind of stuff.
Roland.
And civil society, Gatey, have come up with questions.
Yeah.
Roland,
I heard
he is
Dr.
in the
Mantia. You know
industry.
Dr. Mantia?
Yes.
And
Yeah, I was
Yes.
part of the team that drafted that
He is
statement.
in the
So,
industry, I respect his
and alongside Mr. Jan, they've asked some key, I believe, vital questions that
Yeah, very important.
seem not to have been answered because of government not forthcoming in terms of the clarity of how this transactional process was going to be.
This
At
is-
what? No. So now, at what point in time are we not going to use cash, but we're going to use direct gold?
Thank you. Roland, this is the first test, right?
Before
This is the first
before he
test.
comes in, would you want me to read?
That thing.
Oh,
No,
no,
The-
no,
the-
you
what-
keep
what-
it.
what-
when you come
Yeah,
around,
when
okay.
you come around. This is the first test.
What test?
whatever, no,
You made a policy
gold-
announcement. The policy
Yes,
announcement,
no,
you are not doing
this
tests.
It's
No.
got K-leg.
Oh, this is the first product we've gotten out of these.
And you use cash.
policies.
You told us you were going to use gold.
Yes, the gold for, I told you, is a two-prong. The difference between what I said and what my brother Basintali said is that normally, as of now, we go and import crude using dollars and all that, okay? And now we have created a concept or a program which says we are going to barter trade directly. So we bring gold, and definitely there will be value to the gold we bring. The ounces will have a value, which value will then tell you the requirement you will get. Is it not it? And that's why a lawyer is saying we should have then sold it and then gone to the market to buy. That's his thinking. He's an industry player. We are saying that, look, we can then come, you need gold, have it. Instead of going through the hassle commodity market to sell gold and co, we are getting it to you direct. Bank of Ghana, okay, the process is Bank of Ghana PMMC, okay, then the market operates. If we have supplier one, supplier two, and all that. So we'll use the process to get the product in. Now, the first process we are saying is, I'm saying, that's why I use the word believe and you have problems, rightly so. So Yes, if we give it to you,
Mr. George, you see, believe is not a precise word.
Of course,
it means
of
that
course. No, but somebody used possibility. Somebody used possibility here.
You are not
and
sure.
It was accepted. He used possibility here, and it was accepted. There's possibility
not in
that
government. You are in government.
No, there's possibility.
You speak
also
to the
that
vice president. I'm sure you even spoke to the vice president before you came here. And if the vice president gave you, okay. So the vice president's office gave you belief.
No,
and you two, you are
I
communicating belief. It doesn't give us assurance.
I gave you figures. I gave you figures
Who?
and all
Did you
that.
speak to?
There, you get it.
Who
I
gave
gave
you
you
those figures?
figures and
I
co.
spoke to
Don't
the
worry
office.
about
Who?
that. Okay, don't worry. I wouldn't come and sit here, Vice President.
When are we going to use gold for oil?
No. So this is the first. It is the objective. And two, a lawyer said something, and that's the objective. I told you from the get-go that our target is to have about 50% of our oil imports butter traded, okay, with gold for oil and gold. That's our short to medium term objective. So that the remaining 50 years, the BDCs will still be there. And government, it is government's responsibility to ensure the welfare of its citizens, okay? And so if government can get into the fray to make the cost of the product lower, why not? And two, I don't see what Deputy Minister said being completely different from what His Excellency the Vice President has been saying. Okay, if there is a two-prong, what I said from the beginning is that if one, we go butter complete, that is it. So if there's a commodity trader, and as we speak, there are a number of countries that have shown interest in the gold for oil this thing. And so if they deal in gold and they deal in oil, it's easier.
It's no more an Emirate or a Saudi or something.
No. So other countries have
Dubai
shown
based
interest.
something.
Other countries have shown interest. So then when the competition comes in, it makes it more efficient. Okay, then we make progress. And two, now Tor, he said, ask them. I like lawyers' point that the media dig deep and see the efficiency level, okay, of Tor. 100 barrels of crude is taken to Tor. What is the outcome?
Make it
36%, 36, 37%.
Efficient.
Meanwhile, there are other refineries that make 98%. So what is the efficiency level? And two, he said again, management issues, and I agree, okay? Go check the management style and system. The Minister for Energy is taking steps to, change things in those sectors so that will bring efficiency and then let them perform the way they ought to perform.
So when are we going to have a direct trading of gold?
Oh, definitely. Once we've started, definitely the next stage. We are definitely getting somebody who trades in both commodity gold and oil. Then we can make progress.
I think that you've gotten a clarity now. It looks like everything is set. This one is just one off. We've brought in 41,000 MT. So he's saying that, Charlie, relax, take your time, everything will be fine.
There's openness and transparency.
I still don't know why you are still
because I need to know
when we
use cash.
Gold for oil. The Vice President says what came in is gold for oil.
No, it clearly is not.
No, but clearly he stated that it was.
Yes.
The Vice President stated it was. And so if you keep
but we've had an explanation by the deputy energy minister, which shows that.
The deputy energy minister and our Vice President, who do you believe now?
No.
You know why you attempted to believe the deputy energy minister? It's because we have a Vice President in credibility crisis.
Oh, come on.
Other than that, the Vice President's position on the matter should have been final. But you see, I still draw his attention to the fact that how does cash for diesel become a phase 2 of a gold for oil policy? How? Because in the past, what we have been doing already is to use dollars to buy petrol. This is clearly a cash for diesel arrangement. And there's no new policy. It is something that Asian governments have always done and then repeatedly do. The second point has to do with Tor. And you see, that's got to do with how we want to help them reduce cost of petroleum products in this country. It has nothing to do with gold for oil. This is not going to work. This is a fiasco. It is going to fall flat.
But we have oil coming in, 41,000 MT.
From which policy? That's cash for diesel. I've explained that.
Yes,
what came in was cash for diesel.
You say you should take your time.
So nothing has come in. 0% has come in. And what we have repeatedly told them, he sat here to say that all wasn't revamped under the NDC administration. When you came into office, okay, you have appointed not less than 2 MDs for that
facility. That who reported this. And I knew I knew workers in Tor. Who announced
absolutely. In 2015, about 80,000 barrels of oil was taken there from Sahara Oil. In 2016, we took oil from the Jubilee fields, and Mr. Jantua confirmed that here. I beg your pardon, please. And you see, that whole refinery is a machine. that needs to be brought back to life. Once the machine is brought back to life, it operates efficiently. And you are quoting 36% of production, whatever. Currently, we are doing 0%.
No, but bringing it back to life means you also need to cure the management issues that are there.
And the corrupt practices.
Yes.
And you see, one of my biggest regrets today is that the NDC government even took oil to that particular facility. Because we didn't finish utilizing it. They came into office, and today, that whole refinery is under investigation. People came and started stealing oils from it. And then, I mean, a lot of people, even the MD, had to resign as a result of these corrupt practices. And that is my regret in this particular matter. So, number one, focus and revamp TOR. Number two, we have explained to them that if you take our petroleum cost buildup, over 40% of it is from taxation. Unnecessary, reckless taxation. Like the new energy sector levy that had been imposed on petroleum products. In fact, a whooping 20%, 20 pesos has been imposed on every liter of petrol or diesel you buy. We've told them to scrap it. The special petroleum tax, we've told them it had outlived its usefulness. We were in this country when petroleum prices internationally were sold for as low as $50 per barrel. That was why at that particular point in time, we introduced the special petroleum tax, at least to beef up the differences. Today, we're at an all-time high. And sometimes you find communicators sit and say, world prices are high, that is why petroleum prices are high. You know, once world prices get high in the international markets, Ghana benefits from it because we export crude there and people buy it at same international rates. And that is why we have repeatedly said that there is nothing like cheaper fuels out there. The fuel price is one. You go there, you lobby, and you buy it at that same
rate. You have money or you don't have money.
You have money or you don't have money. You can't buy it, you forget it. And so they should scrap that particular tax. The third part has to do with how we're going to manage our dollar reserves. I mean, clearly, it's been proven that Dr. Bawumia has no grips on it. Dr. Bawumia is entirely clueless about how to solve
managing reserves is by the Bank of Ghana. That's
managing what? Stabilizing the dollar. Who announced the stabilization of the dollar? Who stabilizes the dollar? The economic management, between the economic management team and the Bank of Ghana, who helps in stabilizing the dollar? The policy generation point is on the decks of the economic management team, headed by a clueless vice president like Dr. Bawumia. And that is why we have repeatedly said that, look, in order to reduce capital flights, number one, you need to sack the finance minister. And I'll repeat that on this platform. Because you see, we haven't too many capital flights on a daily basis. And this is because we have a very inefficient, we have a very clueless, we have a very visionless finance minister who is unable to propose proper policy tabulation for people to buy into. And that is why we are at the point we are in. Look, I have said, and I'll reiterate the point of the former President John Mahama, that first of all, this needs to be stopped and taken to Parliament. Because there's a regulation, Article 1815, that needs to be conformed to. If it's taken to the Mines and Energy Committee, I am very convinced that the Honorable John Jenapo, who serves as a ranking member, at least would give them some brilliant alternatives to this particular policy. And I believe strongly that all attempts to pretentiously say we are carrying our gold to go and change barrels of oil and what have you will be exposed and would have a better and pragmatic steps will be taken towards salvaging this particular situation.
Sorry, I have to give you only 3 minutes.
May I ask a question?
Yes, you please do. I believe it's a rhetoric.
Does the Bank of Ghana, is the Bank of Ghana's responsibility to loan government money? Is it their responsibility?
There's a threshold.
It's not at all.
Do they loan government money?
Are they doing it now? Yes.
Do they? No. Does the law allow them to do that?
I think that there's a threshold by which they can.
What's the threshold?
I think 10%.
Let's find out the threshold.
10%.
The debt crisis we are in now. Hasn't some got
5
to,
or 10%?
Hasn't some got to do?
5%.
Hasn't some got to do with the Bank of Ghana loaning money to government?
Yes.
Isn't the Bank of Ghana loaning money to government with this oil for gold?
No.
Who is providing the money to buy the gold?
I asked him a question here.
Who's providing the money?
it?
It's BOG that is.
The most exposed institution in this particular triangle is the Bank of Ghana. And if BOST are not able to handle the risk properly, because normally where you get the purchase of petroleum products is done by letters of credit, which is more secure. Is it being done by letters of credit by BOG? Are they not using Ghana's cedis, Ghana money to purchase? Shouldn't have been a situation where you get a syndication of banks to handle this particular gold for oil, not the Bank of Ghana. And if you expose the Bank of Ghana to a point where it can create challenges, where are we?
Like if we use banks, that also situated into the demand for USD or Forex in the local market.
The BDCs, don't they use banks?
No, they use. So it's part
Don't
of
they
the
use
problem.
banks?
It's part of the
Isn't
problem.
it
That's why the vice president brought the
isn't it-
remedy, I believe.
Isn't it a question of looking how best you can handle the situation?
Mr. Gentle,
Because Bank of Ghana is exposed. That is the challenge.
Following the coming in of this 41,000 MT of oil, you seem to be worried about what the policy intention was and what you've seen so far.
It's the transparency and accountability issues that,
That worry you.
that worry me. If they came and said, we are using for this particular phase, this particular window, we've secured X quantity of gold. We are going to use this X quantity of gold to buy X quantity of oil. However, we were expecting to barter, but from the looks of things, we might have to go through a trader. This is how much the trader is going to charge us along this line, and we are going to use X quantity of money to purchase X quantity of oil. Transparency.
All right. Well, we want to go for a break. When we come back, we'll speak on the subject of Bawku. The military, they've come out, the Ghana Armed Forces, saying that there was some altercation. They had to exchange some fire. They had to neutralize persons who were armed. But Cletus Avoka, who is a member of parliament for Zebela, has been raising questions, as well as Mahama Yariga, who are calling for some strict and comprehensive investigations onto what is happening and bring under control the role of the military in the area.
By the soldiers was uncalled for. It is barbaric and unprofessional. We demand that the Ministers of Defense and Interior investigate this incident and bring the unprofessional perpetrators to book. The good name, in fact, the very good name of the military is being soiled by this unprofessional conduct. We also demand, after the investigation, these victims' families should be adequately compensated. This conduct also defeats the purpose of peacekeeping. They rather seem to be aggressors rather than peacemakers or peacekeepers. The soldiers cannot deny responsibility as they have not seized any arms or weapons from the victims. I understand that they admit that yes, they did the firing and the killing of these innocent people, but that they were exchanging fire. If that is so, that they were engaged, they had engaged each other, then there might be evidence coming from the soldiers that, oh, we seized weapons from them, guns or bows and arrows or other missiles from them. But nothing. They just shot and killed them. What are they fighting for? They say chieftaincy. But there's no chieftaincy dispute in Bawku as at now. The Bawku chieftaincy dispute has been resolved. There's no chieftaincy dispute. So we don't know what they are fighting for. It is the duty of government of the day to have the political will and commitment to make sure that the rule of law and due process in this matter is upheld, respected, and works.